So, welcome to the first episode of what we're going to call the Big Cheese Side Quest. And this is where we're going to interview people who are doing really interesting things using AI. And my first guest today is Kirk Elliott. Now, what nobody knows is that Kirk and I actually go way back. Like, we go all the way back to high school, where we used to get into all sorts of trouble. And like, it was just a bad combination of two personality types. But we did some really fun shit. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if George and Logo USA is still out there, but we won't ever.
Spot. Yeah, that's good.
we won't talk about that.
Sponsored by Logo USA.
So, Kirk, thank you so much for joining me today. And what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do is we're going to talk about the new application you've been building called TypeBeat, which is available on the App Store right now. And it was all inspired from your passion for DJing and mixing. And you said, I'm going to build a new application. I'm just kind of curious how that all kind of unfolded and how you decided to go and attack it.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I want to say a lot of it was from when I heard your podcast and then definitely got me thinking about what could I do with this or what is this? And maybe, immediately feel behind and like, okay, well, they're already figured this all out and I'm, missed the bus here and totally too late. But so I thought, I'll take a look at it and see. And then I started playing with it. And then, we made a trip there with you. And actually that was what really sparked it, is because I saw, well, hey, this is a thing anybody can try. And I talked with you a little bit about it. And then, like my approach may not be the ideal approach that I started with, but it was fine for what I was trying to do. It was funny. It actually was a couple things came together also. Like you said, I'm interested in DJing. I got my DJ equipment here behind me and stuff. So the DJ, I have a website called CaptainKirk.com that I've already done a similar project with. It kind of like auto mixes hip hop beats. No doubt I've informed you about it before. And that was part of the inspiration. I kind of already had these beats laying around and I thought, what else can I do? And what can I do with an app? And, I've still got plans to make it even more like the website, but the JavaScript web audio API made it super easy, actually easier than with Swift to do the kind of thing that I wanted to do. So I kind of got a lot for free with JavaScript and my experience there, and making it all from scratch was not too hard. And then taking the same beats and making this with it was part of it. But another part of it was before I started this app, I was again tinkering with the controls. I'm just using ChatGPT where you can pick, it had a coding model at the time. Right. And so I made it first. I was like, let me just see what kind of app I can make. And I wanted to make one for my neighborhood here, sort of, because I also have the domain for my neighborhood. I don't want to say the name of it, but
so, wait a minute, you bought the domain, you realized that nobody had registered the domain and you went out and bought it.
They have like .org or something that they use. And so, I was like, and I actually got the with and without the dash, and I have an email account set up on it so that when I sign up for theirs, I use that email and they're like, oh, what's this guy? So
you're arbitraging the HOA.
Totally. We'll see where it ends up. So anyway, though, I wanted to make an app and I just was thinking, like, not like I really want people to use it, but just thinking like, what could you do if you had a neighborhood and you wanted to make it so people could sign in with iOS and like have a community, kind of like what is it, Nextdoor or whatever, I suppose. Yep. Maybe more closed, maybe more private. Again, like this would only be iOS, the thing that I was thinking of. And I started playing with it, and I don't know a lot about databases. I'm a front-end guy. So I knew how to make the UI, and I was like, make something with a wall and make something that you can sign up for, and maybe there's a form, and maybe there's shows your data. But like in a day, I was able to make a thing that you could like sign up with your email with iCloud, and you could, like, anyone could sign up and you could be approved, and there was a private database for all the user stuff. There's a public database for all the walls. It was done in like less than a day that I wouldn't have known how to do at all with the database, and using iCloud for free. Right. And I was like, whoa, this is like,
was that using Swift data or core data?
I believe it was Swift.
Right. It was the same thing.
Okay. I had to use the iCloud data for something, I believe. It was iCloud, but it was free. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of power that I didn't really realize that I had. And especially for something that's free. And so then I kind of like let that slide. I was like, well, this is really cool. And I was able to, again, make accounts. Anyone could edit. I was just like, wow, this is cool. And then I was kind of like, also like, I always wanted to make a little turntable app or something like that. Because this guy, DJ Qbert, famous DJ, used to have a bunch of apps like, 10 years ago where you could scratch on them and stuff like that. I thought that's cool. And there's probably open source for that anyway. But I wanted to just make something And then, so I started that, and I was kind of like, hey, I don't really want a turntable app. That's that's not really exactly what I want. I thought, what do people do when they DJ? Well, they buy all this equipment. But like, what do they do? Well, you get if you get really good, you can make all the beats be lined up perfectly, right? And like that's the art, and maybe 2 of them, or maybe 3 or 4 if you're really good. And so that's all this thing wants to do is just kind of standardize. Like I used, I don't know if you can see this drum machine here behind me, actually.
Right.
To it can it's a rolling machine, and you can run songs through it, and it'll put them on a grid standard, and so you can make all the songs be metric.
So you put all the songs that are available on TypeBeat right now. You processed all of them through that.
CDs. You can't see next to me. I have a lot of CDs.
No
but yeah,
shit.
CDs of all of them. I have CDs of all of them. Recorded the instrumentals of CDs of all of them. And I even have a WAV file for every MP3 file that I'm using on the website. And, so when I run it locally, it uses WAV files for everything too. And it sounds better.
Right.
So, but I got all that and recorded them. And they're all standardized. There's only 3 there's really 4 tempos, but 3 that I'll talk about. There's 84, 94, and 102. So all the songs I recorded, they're never at a real tempo. They're all recorded at these exact tempos, and they're all the exact right lengths. So that if you play 2 of them and you start them together, they're going to finish together. And if they loop, they're going to stay on time together, like almost for free.
So real quick, when you processed all those, so there's I can select one of the beats and I can have it at those 3 different rates. Mm-hmm. Are all 3 of those variations stored within the application?
No, just one. And actually in the Swift app, okay. So first of all, in the website, it never ever repitches. It never does any other tempo. You can only play them either at 84, 94, or 102, just as they're recorded.
Okay.
You only can mix them with other ones within their same tempo. Okay. But in the app, you can mix all of them together, and it does do the repitching. But you can pitch any of them. That was just a new idea that came up while I was playing with the app. And I was like, wow, that would actually probably be really easy because it's just math. And so then, yeah, just, you can do that in the app though. And you can change whether it's pitch controlled or not and all that jazz.
And that's all just doing it with Swift, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so let's start all the way now for the beginning when you said, okay, I'm going to build TypeBeat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, was it Cursor? Was the tool that you were going to use?
No, so what I did was it was originally called Looper, I think, and then it was called Club Sound, because it's loops. Club Sound, because I thought, oh, that's a cooler name. And then I have a shot where I asked the AI, I said, what's a cooler name, TypeBeat or Club Sound? Pick one, no questions. And it was like TypeBeat. So I was like, okay, cool. So sorry, I completely forgot what you asked me about. What did I use? So I used ChatGPT. But again, like I said, I think I was doing it. I paid $20 for a month of it, and then it had the model where you could pick the code model. It doesn't have that anymore, I don't think. Right. And then I could take files and I could drag them into the browser in Safari. I use Safari.
Dude, you were fucking raw dogging ChatGPT and having it. Oh my God, that is the worst development experience.
I was yelling at it. I was like, you need to export perfect files, full files every time. Don't tell me where it goes. Like, always give it to me full files. But it was really easy though still, because you start an app, they're small, and Swift is really small, and it was a pain, yes, but copying it and putting it over there was what I did. And and you get into a rhythm, you get errors and you feed it the errors and it brings you the answers. That's beautiful, all that, how it recognizes your language.
Right.
You may type a big giant block of code and something you wrote at the top and you're swearing at it at the bottom, and it's got like interjections with whatever else you've thought of. And so it's taking all that in and giving you the empathy back and and also doing the coding, so that's cool. And giving you something that you can then just drop in and run and execute and it's like, wow, it worked. Okay, cool.
Right.
But yeah, it gets weird because you get those situations where you're hitting a wall. You're getting errors and it's feeding it back to you. And you're you're getting angry at a rock at that point. That's no fun for anybody.
So did you eventually then, so I did that same exact thing where I was like, okay, I'm going to use ChatGPT. I'm going to build Belly Lint, which was like my application for basically recording meetings and transcribing them and turning them into like a conversation thing.
Nice.
And it same exact thing where I was like ChatGPT, I'd go and I'd copy and I'd paste it. And eventually it just lost its fucking mind. Like it couldn't keep track of all of the things that it was doing previously. And that's when I threw in the towel, and that's when I eventually pulled the trigger for Cursor. Was that kind of a similar story for you?
Well, no, I actually just picked up Cursor. So I did this thing.
Shut the fuck up. Hold on. Before you go on any further, are you telling me that you built TypeBeat, almost all of it, without Cursor?
Before this last revision that started yesterday, I'd never used Cursor.
Oh my God, you crazy son of a bitch.
I'm very patient.
Dude, that's bananas. That's insanely patient. Holy shit.
Well, it's a balance though. You have to have two things. One, you have to have the ability to undo immediately. You have to have the ability to revert your Git or whatever you've got and throw it.
Totally.
That's one thing you have to have. And you're almost like holding its changes hostage. Like you've got it here and you're like, if you mess this up, I'm going to get rid of these changes. Is like very much the energy, like for half of it. Okay. Then there's another half of it. You're like blindly trusting whatever it's doing. Like I don't know how to do all the stuff with the audio that the thing does, but I can listen to it and I can tell you if it's perfect or not. And so like, it's like looking at something and being like, can I evaluate if this is correct or not? Or has it created 10 new problems or, what else did it do? And like, then also like being able to do that like immediately and either yell at it or whatever and ask it another question, and it's also scoping your problems to be tiny sometimes.
Yes.
So just running with it sometimes, letting it make mistakes and letting it keep going sometimes. So both of those things I've had success with. So it's weird how it works.
Dude, I am thoroughly impressed. So I thought for sure that TypeBeat, that you went through that experience where you're like, all right, I'm going to use ChatGPT, and then you found Cursor, and then Cursor was just like, okay, this is the panacea of being able to do this because
it's a little better, but
it's a little better.
It's a little better.
Dude,
it can be improved. Okay, imagine if it worked natively with, first of all, your repos. It has no idea. It lies to you. It says it can see your repos, but it does not see your repos. It does not.
Well, are you asking it to search your code?
Yes, and I showed you the thing it sent me that said it was lying about it.
Yeah, that's right. You just said, real quick. It was like, you're like, originally first, I don't believe you. Yeah. You're telling me what I want you to hear that you're programmed to do. It's like, yeah, you're right.
It's like, I can't actually read your repo, and I'm sorry for saying that I could, And
well, so I'm kind of surprised by that though, because with the searches. So the two things that I'm constantly doing now is every time I end a conversation with Cursor, I'm like, go ahead and search all of the fucking code base so you can find what you're trying to do, and then ask me any follow-up questions. Yeah. Right. Those are my two final things that I always pretty much tell it, and it seems to do a fairly good job. But nevertheless, like ChatGPT, like when you're doing it that way, dude, like you're just completely separated from the code base. Yeah. Bravo fucking oh.
Well, again, it's your approach, it's I was surprised, you get also, the other thing is I get like I get like communication going with the computer almost,
Right.
And like yesterday when I was doing this, I hadn't done this for weeks or maybe even months. I mean, it was around Thanksgiving time, I think, when you were there.
Right.
And I did it like in a week. So it was delivered in 2 weeks. So like that was a quick period of time for me to have worked on it. It was like early December, I think, was when it shipped. And then, I haven't even touched the code until yesterday. So I was yesterday, I think I spent 12 hours. Thank you to my wife. I was able to sit here for 12 hours without many interruptions and mess with this even further and get deeper. Add the localization for 8 languages or whatever.
Right.
That would have been a pain, and it was a breeze compared.
Dude. And so did you do the localization using Cursor at that point? Okay, so you're fully into Cursor now. Are you using Claude or using GPT? Do you know?
No. Claude. Oh, sorry. I think it's Claude.
Yeah,
I'm
Claude.
using Claude.
Right.
So now Claude's got a different personality than ChatGPT. ChatGPT is more humble, and Claude wants me to know that he's doing a good job and that he thinks he's clever and that he's solving problems for me. He's like, he says, of course, I know what it is. So he's wrong most of the time, and so like that's why I get to angry at the rock. Sometimes.
So here's my take on. So I actually have a different approach or a different opinion on Claude. So Claude 3.5 and Sonnet specifically and I are now very tight. Where GPT feels very clinical, and where Claude will be. Claude just matches my vibe. So that's my thing on Facebook, right? Like it's every time I'm pushing up, like Claude will be like, oh, fuck, yes, I see where I screwed up. I'm a fucking idiot. And it's just like, okay, that's hilarious. Now, ChatGPT, though, has just started to output things where it's like, oh, hell yeah, that's totally what it is. Like where it seems like they're trying to get it. But for whatever reason, I feel that Claude and I, like Claude's my dark little passenger. And I love Claude, even though it's fucking an idiot most of the time and I have to yell at it. But ChatGPT is just like, okay, whatever.
I haven't used ChatGPT lately either.
Yeah.
So I haven't really used any of them since then. So yeah.
So the localization that you did, and I think I think localization is one of those things that people sleep on that AI is absolutely so perfectly talented for.
It was quick,
right? So did you? I assume when you built TypeBeat, you were doing all of the UI and all that stuff just in traditional English.
Exactly.
And so then when you said, okay, I'm going to do localization, now I've got to step out, pull all the English out.
No, step one, do make a base case for English, and and then also really go through it because you don't realize right away what all the things you need to,
Great. Yeah,
in this case, the song titles actually don't want to be internationalized or localized. They want to be remaining in English with English letters because that's what Apple would do. So, but everything else, like the screen that asks if you want to change languages, and even the keys in many cases, although China apparently uses English letters for keys, apparently. All the other languages have their own key system, like in Spanish, it's like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, So
oh shit, I didn't even think about so the musical tones.
Yes,
right.
Instead of like A, B, C, D, whatever, F sharp, and in German they have an H instead of a B flat, or So anyway, there's all this nuance that it brings, which who knows if it's making it up and I'm just buying it or not, but it's compelling and convincing. Yeah, I'm on the hook there. So. Anyway, that it worked well to make the English case and then just add a few more languages and did all that very easily. Yeah.
Right. So that was one thing. So a company that I worked for about 6 months when I decided I was going to go be a full-time employee again was called X-Ray Glass. They make these glasses that you can do the transcription. But the one thing that they did actually have, and this was now, this is probably 2 years ago now, their entire, international or IN 18, whatever the hell that thing is, right, would be run through, and they had a whole process to run it through. I think they were using Amazon's language transcription, and it would literally just go through, and they just had a whole list of them, and it would just go through and just generate all of them.
I wanted to do that, but I thought it would look cooler if they were all in the other languages. I thought, that's going to look way more impressive.
Right. So, but you did that, right? Like, ultimately, that's what you kind of did, though.
I did, but again, it was a smaller set of things. I did like the play button. There's the like you're saying, the accessibility speech, the labels or whatever. Those are all translated. That's really most of it is stuff you don't even see, like the play button that says play and stop. It doesn't say that normally unless you use the accessibility feature. So
right. Now, so if I remember right, you were doing Swift development before this.
Yeah. So before that, even I did Flash, of course, and I made apps in Flash, and then
Flash. You're totally aging us now.
No, I love Flash. I love ActionScript. That's how I learned how to code. Was with ActionScript, and ActionScript would have been ECMAScript 4 if Adobe would have gotten its way, but they didn't release ES4. And so that's kind of beautiful because then would have had types in JavaScript earlier. That would have been exciting. But anyway,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Get, because of the ad tech, I would say, of Adobe, they looked as evil or something. Who knows? But anyway, though, then I did a bunch with Cordova. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, right.
So with JavaScript,
that's where we got into our debate because I was a big a cross-platform guy, and you had already migrated from doing cross-platform to saying it needs to be the true like native platform where you're going to get the best experience. And I was like, oh bullshit, but you're 100%. You were 100%.
Well, there's
right.
different takes. There's different takes. And I was at the time though, I got a job working at another place, and they wanted me to do an SDK for mobile, and it was native, so I got the opportunity. Most people don't get that opportunity to work natively in iOS and Android, but I did for a couple of years. That's all I did. And so then you form that opinion, right? Then you're like, okay, now I want to see what these look like natively.
Right.
But if you're trying to save money, the people who were paying me to make Cordova.
Exactly.
And so they probably would have paid me to make React Native too if I would have gone that way.
Man, I'll tell you what, I'm really struggling because right now one of my clients, same exact kind of situation is where they're trying to figure out what they want to do for their native app. And now that I've gone through this process of building through a native experience with Swift, there's no question the best user experience is native. Do it in Kotlin for Android, do it in Swift for iOS, and that's what you should do. And prepare to have a full-time Swift developer and a full-time Kotlin developer.
Yeah. Well, you get the best. The reason is you get the best stuff when it comes out instead of having to wait for the abstraction to pick it up. And then also having to figure out how you're going to handle this new thing that you don't have in the platform.
Or how many times in your Cordova app or your React Native app or your fucking Flutter app, when they go and they update some new base library thing, then all of a sudden it breaks everything.
That's why I quit using Cordova.
Exactly. So Nomi 2, which I actually built, like, I can't even remember how I built it at this point. That was like whatever, but it was truly native, and that thing still runs. Like,
right.
And so, like, really the fact, exactly. The fact is like when you're building truly native applications, those things are going to run for a decade. And when you're running it in, Cordova, you're running React Native, they're going to update something, something's going to break, and you're going to have to fucking be babysitting it.
If you're lucky, something terrible doesn't happen. Seriously. Cordova. Yeah, dude. I happened to get out right when it was dying, or I would have been over a barrel with my client, and so that would have forced me to do something else. But my client was cool, so it was no big deal. But but it's
still there. So we have what's now capacitor. I think is like what there isn't. I think it's called capacitor. Like Cordova's been kind of sunset. Capacitor's the new thing that you can kind of incorporate to bring in some of those Cocoa pods and all that shit.
Oh, okay. Is it native then? You're saying?
Yeah, it is. It's basically. It's allowing you to build out your Xcode, but same exact concepts that we had with Cordova. But the reality is again, if you want to have the best user experience, you have to go native.
Well, Cordova's just web too, right? But yes,
totally. But the amount of time, dude. So I was thinking about this is as I'm building this Paperkeeper app, and I'm going through, and I'm like, I'm building these sheets that are sliding up, these toolbars, all of this shit. I'm like, do you have any idea how much time I spent making Nomi have this kind of iOS experience happening just in the web? Like the amount of time that I spent making sheets that slide up, that have like the little rounded corners, and you can see the shit behind it and all that.
I made it in Flash.
Exactly.
I made a modal in Flash that looked just like the iOS one, and I made an Android one that looked just like the Android one.
Right.
And I made it for that purpose. So I know what you mean.
And then you go and you actually build it with Swift or you build it with Kotlin. You're like, oh my God, that's 3 lines of code.
Yeah, it's free.
That's 3 lines of code.
Yeah.
This is nuts. So fucking frustrating.
Right. Plus, I just love writing in Swift anyway because it's kind of, you can tell it's React influenced, and it's I mean, anyway, I'm not really writing anything now, I guess, but.
Well, so that's one thing that really kind of shocked me is just so it's obviously extremely opinionated, but I kind of like it to a point where I keep thinking like, why hasn't somebody tried to basically replicate a lot of this stuff for the web? Like where
what do you mean exactly that it's opinionated?
Well,
what do you mean?
It's opinionated in the fact that I got a sheet. And here's your sheet, and your sheet is going to have this squiggle for the corners. It's going to light up, and you're not going to pick the colors. You're not going to pick any of the shit. It's just going to be opinionated. And it's going to be the Apple design language.
Well, that's another thing to bring up. I think when I was doing the TypeBeat, I didn't do any of the design either. I asked it to design the logo, and I also and it gave me a few. And I also asked it to design the app as we're going. And I said, I kept giving it the directive. It needed to be designed like Apple or Meta had made a product.
Right.
A lot of time on it. So it did okay. I've taken all that design pretty much out now and done it again a little simpler with Apple's design. But
right.
It's interesting that it can do the design too, I think.
Dude, totally. Yeah. The icon stuff is always fun, right? Because obviously you use DALL-E to generate the icons. Now, so when you went through and you're having to kind of like figure out the UI and all that stuff, are you running this in simulator or are you running this on your phone?
I've got, just like right now, I got my phone right here and I'm firing stuff at it, and it's, I mean, I guess I do sometimes use the preview if I'm in a loop where it's like UI.
Right.
Because I work again with there's like the UI stuff, which I can visually verify, but the audio stuff, you definitely have to, tap and listen. And I have to really, hold up to my ear and be like, is that on time? Is that is it off?
Right.
And so I have to like listen to it and be like, oh no, it's just, and I have to, yell at the guy.
Right.
So
and then when you're doing your development, then do you have Cursor running over here in this
it's
browser,
right here
and
in
then
front of me, right here. Yeah.
and
So
then you have Xcode running over here
yeah,
as a
yeah.
separate?
Mhm.
You do the Cursor work, and then you hit run in the on
Except I have
Xcode.
to say accept these changes,
Yep,
and
yep,
then or first I have to tab it over here, accept the changes. Then I say over here, save the file. Then I go
yep.
over here and say, okay, build and execute. And then and then I have actually underneath, I have a third WebStorm thing just for the integration with Git. So that's where I've got the gun to his head with the changes. If he
Oh,
says something I
right.
don't like and we go too far and I can't undo it here, I can undo it there. So I've
Oh,
always
okay.
got a save point where it's like we're always at an edge where I can revert and
Right.
push your changes all the way off and not care about anything you've done because it could go totally south.
Oh, totally. And it
So
does.
we may go through the fields together, running. So like we'll see where we end up, kind of a thing sometimes.
That's great. That's great. And so with Cursor, you've just been using it now for this new version that you just released.
Yep.
How are you finding that? Well, one, did you try any of the other things other than Cursor? Did you try like Windsurfer or any of those?
No,
No.
I think you said
Same with me.
this, and I was like, yes, I'll try it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm just like,
Mentioned it.
Cursor's great.
And then so first I didn't pay for it, and I thought, let's see what it does. And then it was, running pretty good. It gave me Claude for like, I don't know how many, maybe 150 tokens or maybe
Right.
500 or something. So then after that, it stopped, and I was like, okay, I'm done, I guess. And then I was like, let me try it because I still had a couple more things I was trying to do. I was like, let me try one of the other models. I think I tried 4.0 mini. Let me go a little further with those. I don't know if I loved them as much, but they didn't seem too bad. But then at some point it let me get another Claude one in, and I took it. And then I was like, okay, well, it's $20. I'll try it. I'm not doing the other one. So anyway, then since then it's been going pretty well. I burned through whatever the fast tokens I had were.
I did too, and I had to upgrade for that. Like, you're on the slow path now. I'm like,
I'm
fuck
doing slow
off.
path. I'm all slow path. So I'm just slow pathing it along, and it's fast enough, I'd say, for me. So I go get up if I need to pace into the other room and back sometimes. Like, what am I going to do?
Right. So what's the next plans with TypeBeat?
Let's see. Well, I really want to I'm right now. I got the localization. That's cool, and the new UI is totally different, and I like it way better. It's way cooler looking, and the localization just really looks cool too. But so then I've also been really locking down the performance to make, because the whole feature with this thing is if you create an audio texture, it's looping, it's endless, and you can stack the layers and you can adjust the volume of each of the levels and all that. That's cool. Maybe there'll be effects, maybe something like that. But that core functionality has to work perfectly. If it doesn't work perfectly, if it's even a little bit off for any point, especially the earliest times that somebody tries to play with it, they're going to throw it away and never use it again. So I'm just trying to really obsess over making it like rock solid. And it's just weird because I don't have any understanding of, I'm not even reading the code, just slapping this button and it's going to give me gold eventually, so it's like, it's patience. It's like, I'm optimistic. I'm also able to specify what's wrong. That helps it make amazing corrections sometimes. And
Real quick to that point, you correct it. So you say you're not looking at the code, but every once in a while something goes haywire, and you're like, you delve into the code, and you're like, hey, fucker.
The main thing is, it didn't import Swift UI at the top, like 90% of the time. That's what I mean. It's like, how are you so good or whatever?
It's so stupid at the same time.
All the time, and I feel smart because I'm like, is it gaming me? Is it messing with me? It's like, here's a little token for you, Kirk. You're so smart, kind of feel. I was like, okay, no, it doesn't mean to do that. I'm sure, like that would be malicious, but it's funny because I definitely I definitely consider that. Like, is he doing this on purpose?
Are you fucking with me? Yeah. You're fucking with me.
Because it's always something real easy that I'm like, like your zipper's undone, basically, kind of
thing. Dude, the amount of times that I've been like, guys, this is fucking ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is the most basic feature, the most basic thing I'm asking you for, and you have lost your fucking marbles. And it's like, I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just makes it, or it confidently delivers that it's this is the icing on top, and it's like, and I have to be like,
I totally see where I went wrong. I'm
Yeah.
like, stop it! You do not, you fucking liar! You do not know where you, dude. I was so livid on Friday. Like literally, I don't know how my keyboard is not completely broken.
Yeah.
Because I start screaming in all uppercase, and it
Mhm.
becomes like
You gotta
it's completely like gibberish. It's not even English words at this point, and I'm just like, you asshole.
and it's a rock. I mean, I've been mad at the rock as well. There's there's no one benefits from it. I don't believe.
Oh fuck.
It has no animus. It's not. It doesn't have any character to offend you with. So yeah, it's a mirror that you know what I'm saying. You can shout into sometimes.
Dude, that's exactly what it is. It's a mirror, and I realize that I'm an asshole.
Same.
Ultimately,
I don't share most of it with most people, but I'll share with you because I know that you appreciate it.
Oh, I do. Oh, well, that's it. We're going to wrap it up there with our 30 minutes in for our first Big Cheese side quest. Kirk, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing us. And anybody who's want to go check it out, you can go check it out at TypeBeat. You can just go search the App Store. It's only available for iOS right now. Mm-hmm. For the time being, maybe there'll be an Android one. It's free.
Mm-hmm. It's free,
right?
Yes.
Completely free, no in-app purchases, not like my application.
You need to DJ at a basketball game, and you need to have 2 beats going. You don't want to pay. Hey, you can be off to the races very.
And
quick.
there's a well, actually, let's before we end it, I want to talk about how you and I were kind of talking about. We were a little bit surprised, potentially, about being able to get some of the content in by giving it a different name.
Well, I had to be creative, right? Creativity. I mean, this thing uses music. Like in Jamaica, this wouldn't be a big deal, I think. There's the idea that when somebody makes a beat, that it's like property, anyone can rap on it or whatever. And so like maybe it's a more community-owned idea there. But like here, the beats, even though like Jay-Z, I don't see him, going out and performing any of the beats live. I think he would need like an engineering team to recreate some of the beats that he makes. But yeah, you can't just go put them in your app. And so I don't even know how much I can disclose about these.
No, but brilliant. So it's worth checking out. I think that's the angle. Is that instead of you telling us about it, go download the application, type beats on the App Store, go drop some beats, and you're gonna love it. So
absolutely,
Kirk, thank you, man. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks a bunch.